Barry Windham has been a spotlight on several of my recent episodes, and last week alone it was revealed that he had signed the most lucrative contract in Jim Crockett Promotions history by becoming Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling's newest member. However, this week he is completely overshadowed by his own father, Blackjack Mulligan. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Tyler Vance Rants. I am your host, Tyler Vance himself. It is August 18th, 1984. Last week in the WWF, a mysterious man with a shiny jacket and a bow tie made a mysterious appearance before disappearing without a trace. Rowdy Roddy Piper was insulted by his guest on Piper's Pit in B. Brian Flair. And in the NWA, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, Barry Windham signed a contract to join Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, while the Nature Boy Ric Flair wandered into the woods in search of Blackjack Mulligan's help against the Nature Boy's current rival-in-chief, Wahoo McDaniel. We'll be jumping right into Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling first this week, and the very first voice that we hear is that biased one of Bob Caudle, as he calls a match between the NWA Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Champion, Angelo Mosca Jr., taking on Gary Royal. Angelo dominates the match as soon as it gets underway, staying on top of Gary with a series of holds to ensure that the match remains at a snail's pace. From there, Mosca Jr. hits Royal with a flying forearm before he heads up to the top rope and hits Gary Royal with a flying crossbody to get the first win of the week. Bob Caudle is backstage, and he has with him one of the greatest minds in professional wrestling, the greatest if you ask him, in James J. Dillon. Dillon and Paul Jones have been close associates for many years now, and James J. Dillon takes the opportunity to let us know, as well as Bob Caudle and the rest of the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling locker room, that if Paul Jones needs any assistance, then JJ is here to help.
And I want to assure Mr. Jones that in the weeks and the months to come, he will have my support both morally and in the ring.
That's it. It's all over for the Boogie Woogie Maniac, Jimmy Valiant, and his delusions of grandeur. The war can officially be declared over right this second. Mr. Personality Brian Adidas takes on Bobby Bass in singles competition next. Adidas uses the Angelo Mosca Jr. approach and utilizes several holds against his opponent, keeping the match slow pace. But unlike Angelo Mosca Jr., Adidas sucks, and Bobby Bass is able to have a comeback, gaining a brief advantage over the running shoe before Brian fights back and gets a win with the lame as hell airplane spin. Backstage once more, Bob Caudle this time has NWA television champion Tully Blanchard and rightful NWA United States heavyweight champion Chief Wahoo McDaniel standing by for an interview, and both of them look absolutely fantastic in their suits. I feel like there's either an echo or a broken record going on here, because what seems for like the 1000th time, Caudle asks Chief Wahoo McDaniel just what has gotten into him with his change of behavior of late.
Why? What in the world has happened to Wahoo McDaniel, and why? What has Tully Blanchard done to you, Wahoo?
Chief McDaniel is tired of Native Americans being treated like second-class citizens and is taking steps to make sure that that injustice is corrected. Maybe, Bob, if you and all the other clowns in Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling took a moment and listened to what the Chief had to say, he wouldn't have to take such drastic measures. Both the Nature Boy Ric Flair and the American Dream Dusty Rhodes have been gunning for Chief Wahoo McDaniel and Tully Blanchard respectively. Chief McDaniel recently fought Flair for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, while Rhodes, as we know, challenged Tully Blanchard for the NWA Television Championship. Neither championship ended up changing hands. However, one thing was common between both matches. Both Flair and Rhodes were left in a bloodied, crumpled heap. Turning his attention to last week's segment where Flair wandered through the woods and interrupted Blackjack Mulligan and his Cowboys hunting trip, he advises the Blackjack to stay out of Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling if Mulligan wants to remain healthy.
Well, let me tell you something, Blackjack Mulligan. I've had our hard times and we've had our good times. If you're having a hard time making up your mind whether to come and help them, but I'd advise you to stay where you are, stay healthy, Stay hunting pigs, because that's what you need to be doing.
A lightning-fast match between Assassin Number 1, who's accompanied by his manager Paul Jones, and Doug Vines takes place next. A quick right fist from Assassin Number 1's taped fist puts an end to the match before it can even get going. The Renegade and his loser brother Mark Youngblood are Bob Caudle's next guest backstage, and Mark keeps shifting from foot to foot, left to right, as if he really has to go to the washroom, but then does manage to say that he thinks the competition within Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling has gotten significantly better since last November's Starrcade 83, A Flair for the Gold. You'd know better than anyone, Marky Mark, considering you've lost to seemingly everyone on the roster. The Renegade then speaks up and says that he hopes he and his loser brother don't have to wait until this November's Starrcade 84 to face off against Ivan Koloff and Don Caudle for the NWA World Tag Team Championships.
But I would sure like to be one part of the World Tag Team Champions again, right along with my younger brother. It could all happen here at Starrcade 84.
Are you guys stupid? No, legitimately, are you actually dumb? Ivan Koloff and Don Caudle put out an open challenge to any tag team for an automatic shot at the NWA World Tag Team Championships due to the fact that there does not seem to be any competition for them in the tag team division. Why are you waiting to hopefully face them at Starrcade 84? Head down to the ring right now and challenge them. You guys really are stupid. Ugh. We're not done with these two clowns yet, as the Renegade and Mark Youngblood then head down to the ring to face off against Jesse Barr and Jeff Sword in tag team competition. You know, rather than take up that advantageous challenge for the NWA World Tag Team Championships. Idiots and morons. I'm gonna call it now. The Renegade will do moderately well. Mark Youngblood will screw it up somehow, and then the Renegade will have to come to his brother's rescue. When the match does get started, the brothers are able to keep Jesse Barr on the defensive with good teamwork. But lo and behold, Mark Youngblood gets into some trouble, and he has to tag in the Renegade in order to keep their team in the game. I'd say I'm incredibly intelligent for being able to quickly identify these behaviors in the duo. However, it's more like common sense at this point to realize that Mark Youngblood just absolutely sucks. A catapult splash moments later secures the Youngbloods, the 1-2-3. Bob Caudle has the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, standing by for an interview, and Caudle wants to know what the results were of Flair's attempt at recruiting Blackjack Mulligan in his crusade against Chief Wahoo McDaniel.
I have accepted Ric Flair's offer.
Flair is overjoyed, screaming in excitement.
Now we're taking care of business, you understand? Because Mulligan, we're gonna walk that aisle, woo, just like we used to.
The Nature Boy then says that the playing field has now been leveled against Chief Wahoo McDaniel, considering the Chief has Tully Blanchard on his side. No, it hasn't. Chief Wahoo McDaniel and Tully Blanchard are active wrestlers. Good ones at that too. Mulligan is a washed up cowboy. Good for only sitting by the fire in a swamp with his chapped up cow friends, shooting off rifles all willy-nilly because they've never heard of something called trigger discipline. Blackjack Mulligan has come back, sure, but all that's going to end up happening is that Mulligan is going to get beaten within an inch of his life, and it's going to be all your fault, Rick. Dusty Rhodes is Bob Caudle's next guest, and he shares Ric Flair's excitement about the returning Blackjack Mulligan. What about Barry Windham, Rhodes? Are you excited about him coming to Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling? You know, a young wrestler that's going to help promote the wrestling business into the 1990s, rather than an old fossil coming back and bringing the wrestling business back into the 1890s? Then, for some reason, the American Dream takes a shot at the NWA World Tag Team Champions, Don Caudle and Ivan Koloff.
And let me tell you something, Koloff and Caudle, Russian, and I can't say the other words that go behind it, but that's the way I feel. And when you play that Russian anthem, you play the many waltzes by the Russian thing, you remember one thing, that this country is the greatest country of the world.
Well, you're wrong on both accounts there, Dream, because the best country in the world is Canada. Johnny Weaver. "Oh, how I have not missed you, John Boy," and he is Bob Caudle's next guest backstage. But he does go on to say that he is excited about Barry Windham's signing with Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. Finally! Not only Barry Windham, but Johnny Weaver says that he's excited about another wrestler coming to Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, this time in the returning Mike Rotundo. And for those that are unfamiliar with Rotundo, he briefly competed in Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling in early to mid-1983, even going so far as to win the NWA Television Championship for a time. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I agree with Johnny Weaver when he says that both Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo are going to make huge waves when they come to Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. Bob Caudle then catches a word with the current NWA Television Champion, Tully Blanchard, and wants to know what Blanchard's thoughts are on the upcoming Starrcade 84. Tully Blanchard then praises last year's Starrcade, specifically the main event between Ric Flair and Harley Race for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, but then goes on to say that this year's Starrcade will be even bigger and better. Why? Because Tully Blanchard will be there.
Wahoo McDaniels will be there. Tully Blanchard will be there. We're going to be closed circuited all over the world.
Before the main event, Bob Caudle catches a quick word with half of the NWA World Tag Team Champions, Don Kernodle. Kernodle has a treat for us, a tag team match that he'll be guest commentarying for in Uncle and Nephew, Ivan and Nikita Koloff, taking on the team of Sam Houston and Bret Hart. The Russian national anthem plays for the Russian duo before the match begins. The two Russians then take out their frustrations on the two Americans, and Sam Houston gets tossed around the ring like a wet noodle before he tags in his partner, Bret Hart, who then gets beaten within an inch of his life by the Koloffs before being mercifully put away with the Cobra Clutch. With Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling at an end, let's tune into the World Wrestling Federation's Championship Wrestling show and see what's going on up north. Vince McMahon and Tony Garea, almost fell asleep there, are on commentary as the show begins. Tony Garea looks like he's spacing out as the show begins. What's the matter, Tony? Are you okay? Or are you finally realizing that no matter what you do, you just suck at it? Before the first match begins, I would actually like to take a moment to point out something significant. Joe McHugh, the standard ring announcer for most of the WWF up until this point, has stepped away from the position, and it has been since transferred to someone you may know in the name of Howard Finkel. Steve Lombardi takes on Kamala one-on-one next, and while Kamala is accompanied by his handler, Friday, and his manager, Ayatollah Blassie, the WWF World Heavyweight Champion Hulk Hogan decides to make his way down to the ring and even the playing field, offering moral support to Lombardi in his corner. No, nope, nah, you are not a licensed manager, Hulkster, and so the referee orders the WWF World Heavyweight Champion to head backstage, and he does actually manage to maintain a shred of dignity as the Hulkster complies, and so we bid goodbye to Hulk Hogan. There is nothing Steve Lombardi can do once the match gets underway, and he loses quickly to a splash on his back from Kamala. Well done, Hulk Hogan. You raised Steve Lombardi's hopes for absolutely nothing. Ever since winning the WWF Women's Championship from the Fabulous Moolah, and I use the term winning in the loosest sense possible, Wendi Richter has been carrying around a belt emblazoned with the face of the Fabulous Moolah on it. This is about to change, as Richter heads down to the ring and is presented a brand new championship belt design by Mean Gene Okerlund. Realizing what a sham this is, the Fabulous Moolah rushes down to the ring before she attacks both Wendi Richter and Gene Okerlund.
And this is the biggest thing!
Wait a minute! Hey, come on! That's Moolah! Look what is she doing! Come on!
Okerlund had it coming. Richter, to her credit, is no pushover though, and she manages to fight the Fabulous Moolah off, forcing the former women's champion to head to the backstage area. It's Moolah's belt, Richter! Give up the goods! Mario Mancini takes on Greg the Hammer Valentine in singles competition next. and while he's accompanied to the ring by Captain Lou Albano, Valentine simply treats this match like a warm-up. The Hammer barely breaks a sweat before he puts the not-so-Super Mario away with a figure 4 leg lock. Vince McMahon's waste of time that is the WWF update is next, and McMahon spends the entirety of the update simply taking shots at Rowdy Roddy Piper from the safety of his confined studio.
We have seen him abuse the privilege, no doubt of that. It's not really so much of an interview as it is somewhat of a monologue that Piper does.
Big tough guy, eh, Vince? Jealous? Yeah, you're jealous. Why don't you grow a spine and become a guest on Piper's Pit and say exactly what you just said to the Hot Rod's face? Yeah, I didn't think so. Shut up! Speaking of Piper's Pit, it's next. And this week's guest is none other than the man who had his finisher used earlier by Nikita Koloff, Sergeant Slaughter. Roddy Piper starts the interview off hot by calling the Marine an idiot for serving his country.
You were in Vietnam, and I know that you're a veteran. You went and fought for your country, but I'm not trying to be a smart aleck, you're an idiot.
Sergeant Slaughter fought in the Vietnam War, a very unpopular war on the home front. And while some of the soldiers, Marines, airmen, and sailors were drafted, people like Sergeant Slaughter willfully enlisted. There were no victory parades when these folks returned home after fighting a savage war. Instead, they were screamed at, pelted with debris, and mocked.
But wait, no. Wait, listen, hear me out now, hear me out. You've got all them people chanting for you out there, but what happened when you came back from Vietnam and you said to the driver, you said, I just came from Vietnam, and the driver said to you, so what?
The sergeant looks absolutely dejected, then rises to his feet and says that,
You know, Roddy Piper's absolutely right. I bled for my country. I bled for each and one of you. Next time I'll die for my country. God bless America.
The main event of WWF Championship Wrestling is a non-title match between Dave Barbie and the WWF Intercontinental Champion, Tito Santana. The duo spends some time feeling each other out before the action truly gets underway. The mystery man from last week makes a reappearance, and he does the same behaviors, circling the ring as the competitors inside of it look on with confusion. Vince McMahon actually does manage to identify this man for us and calls him...
His name is Brutus Beefcake.
But as soon as he arrives, Beefcake disappears again. And good thing too, because Barbie is sent down to the floor, and who knows what could have happened to Dave if Brutus Beefcake were still out there. Once back in the ring, Dave does his best, but he does not have the experience that Tito Santana does, and so he falls to the Intercontinental Champion's flying forearm as WWF Championship Wrestling and the week come to an end. Plenty of drama happened all over the place. In the WWF, Vince McMahon took shots at Rowdy Roddy Piper, who in turn took shots at Sergeant Slaughter. The mystery man that has been circling the ring in the WWF for the past 2 weeks was identified as Brutus Beefcake. Several wrestlers made their intentions known for the upcoming Starrcade 84 in November, and Blackjack Mulligan agreed to return to wrestling and Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling in particular to help the Nature Boy Ric Flair with his struggle against Chief Wahoo McDaniel. What is it with these fossils returning to the ring, trying to recapture the glory of their youth, while also taking the glory from the current youth? King Kong Angelo Mosca Sr. did this when his son Angelo Mosca Jr. was first trying to compete for the NWA Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Championship. And now Blackjack Mulligan has done the exact same to his son, Barry Windham. We should always respect the past and appreciate it for what it was. But at some point, these wrestlers from a bygone era need to realize that their time has come and gone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Tyler Vance Rants. Don't forget to hit the bell, like the video, and subscribe so you never miss when a new episode is released. You can also follow me on social media where there's plenty of fun wrestling stuff for you to check out, and I would appreciate if you shared the video with your family and friends. That's it for me for now. I'll see you next week. So long. Disclaimer, again, remember, Tyler Vance is a character. Don't take what he says too literally. I would just like to take a moment to actually say nothing. Maybe, Bob, if you and all the other clowns in Mad Atlantic, Bob Caudle has the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, the Nature Boy,